Hey everyone, it's Strange Michael. I hope you're doing well today. I have a review here for a shark movie from 2011. It's a film that I never wanted to see when I was in high school and it came out. It was actually titled a little bit differently because it came out in 3D back then. I'll get to that in a moment. I am not a shark movie fan. Recently I did a video that my friend BD Horror, also The Horror Tavern is his new name for his channel in case you want to check him out. Really good friend of mine, really great content too. Go check out his channel. He asked me and a bunch of other friends of mine like Monster Blood and Horror FFA / Goosebumps Completionist, they're the same guy. He asked me to, along with them, to make a top 5 favorite subgenres of horror video, and I did that. If I had to ever make a sequel about that, it would probably have my top 5 least favorites or most hated subgenres of horror, and one of those, possibly in the top 3, would be shark movies. Aside from Jaws, I have never seen anything shark-wise that I've actually really liked. Maybe the Meg movie with Jason Statham. That's about it. That's about the only ones that I've ever liked. There's a big reputation about shark films being typically low budget, typically not having as much effort put into them. And this film kind of surprised me. It was recommended to me quite a bit over the years by a guy that I've watched pretty commonly on YouTube called The Lost River Drive-In. If you haven't seen his channel, he's a big horror fan and a big Halloween fan, especially things like Halloween 5. So if you want a different perspective on things like that, go check out The Lost River Drive-In here on YouTube. Anyway, back to the review here. This is from the director of Final Destination 2 and The Final Destination, which is part 4. The writers haven't really done much. I think one of the writers was a writer for the show called Assy McGee. If you haven't seen that, pretty funny show from what I remember. This film here was called Shark Night 3D. Now it's just called Shark Night. I got a brand new Blu-ray, as I showed many of you guys in one of my movie hauls a couple of weeks ago. And I've wanted to see this since I bought it. I wanted to save it for a really nice hot weekend, and of course I picked the weekend that it was raining here, so go figure. I watched this last night as my Friday night horror movie watch, and I didn't hate it, if I'm being honest with you. I don't know if I would keep this in my collection, but I did not hate it at all. It was a fairly decent watch. It was one kind of like the surprise of the Piranha remake that just something about it just really worked. I don't know why, it did. So anyway, if you're not a shark fan, would I recommend this to you up front? Probably so. Probably so. If you just want a fun kind of summertime in the bayous with a bunch of teenagers that are all kind of, you know, nice looking, especially the women. Oh my lord, the women are beautiful in this film. It stars Sarah Paxton, the only other actor I think I knew in this movie, aside from the dad from this one sitcom, I cannot remember. I think it's called Grounded for Life. I used to love it a lot. I haven't watched it enough to remember the title of the show, but I think it was called Grounded for Life. And another guy who was in Hatchet, he was in something else, and he was in Avatar. You know him. If you see him and you hear him talk, you know him. And I like him, matter of fact, and I love Sarah Paxton because she was on, like, Disney and stuff when I was a kid, so, whew, man. Sarah Paxton, good lord. This film is a, like I said, summertime, bikini babe, kind of secluded beach movie, if you will. Basically, a group of college students are going with Sarah Paxton to her hometown in Louisiana, and she doesn't have the faintest accent at all. I don't know why. If you're from Louisiana, you're going to have that accent. They go out to the bayous at this lake, and this lake house that I assume that they either rented or was her property. I don't remember what was said. I think I wasn't paying attention at that moment. My wife and I were talking when the film started off. We were having some pizza, and we were talking a little bit. So when the film kicked off, I think I missed a few details like that. But like I said, we have a lot of college students here, one being a med professional. And eventually, while they're at this lake, apparently it is a saltwater lake, and a shark shows up, and it actually attacks one of their friends. He is severely wounded, and things are not going well. Things are not going well at all. They're having trouble trying to get away from this place. Let me tell you up front, if this was in 3D at the theaters, I am sure it was a massive disappointment. But being on 2D, and I bought this film brand new for $2, it wasn't a bad deal, man. If you happen to see this movie at like Big Lots or something, or Walmart, in the Walmart bins for like $5 or $3 or whatever, you should grab it. It's something different to watch. My mom loves sharks, and she loves shark movies, and she wanted to watch this a whole lot, and I think about a year ago she did watch it. and she was telling me how much she liked it. So when I told her I bought a copy recently, she was telling me how much she was excited for me to see it, because like I said, I'm not a shark movie guy. They usually suck. This film, despite its flaws that I'm going to get into in a moment, I didn't hate it at all. Like I said, I had a fairly decent time with it. These teenagers are dumb, really dumb. I found everybody in the film to be likable, especially this one chick who was like wearing a black shirt, and she was hot. She was kind of like right on the verge of becoming a goth, you know, and she was just really, really hot, and she was a good actress too. And Sarah Paxton was really fun and hot in here too. I keep using the word hot, but that's basically the film. It is a teenager shark movie involving a lake with water. Surprisingly, there was no nudity in here. I was very surprised by that quite a bit. There is not a tremendous amount of gore either. Is this PG-13 or is it rated R? It feels PG-13 sometimes. How do you not have the rating on the back of the box? Is this unrated? I don't think so. Let me look over here. It says PG-13 on IMDb, where I get some of my notes from. But to be an hour and a half long, to be not as gory as you would kind of expect it, there was a couple of surprises with some of the shark attacks that I thought was kind of cool, but a lot of that killing was just blood in the water, floating around, things not happening on the screen. You know, I think they have like one really actually, for me, somebody who's terrified of sharks and fish and shit, one of the kills was pretty horrific. One of the first attacks that happens in the film was kind of surprisingly shocking, in my opinion. Now, you may be wondering to yourself, well, how did the sharks get into that lake? Well, the film kind of turns into that later on, and it's really bad. Let me explain to you. This is made, like I said, by the guy who did Final Destination 2 and 4. 4 is typically concluded by many people in the Final Destination fandom to be the worst one. I haven't seen all of those films in a very long time. I used to watch them religiously as a teen during the summertime, especially on rainy weekends. For some reason, they'd come up then. I used to watch those films religiously on TV and on cable when I was a kid and a teenager. 2 I liked more than 1. 1 I was never a huge fan of. And 4 was massively disappointing. To this day, I still think it is, even though it's been a while since I've seen it. In my memory, I always remember 4 being the worst. If you can accept that Final Destination 2 and 4, especially 4, are big, dumb, kind of action horror movies, if you can accept that whole premise and idea, and understand that the movie you're about to watch is really, really stupid, and really very much lacking logic amongst the characters, how they think, how they do things, Shark Night 3D is just like that. It's just like that in every single way, and if you can accept that and understand what you're getting yourself into, excuse me, I would probably recommend this movie to you. For real. For real, for real. It's a good time. It's genuinely a good time, but it is a big, dumb, explosive movie. It's loud. There's not a ton of jump scares or anything like that, but I'm talking about the kind of things that involve like people riding jet skis and whatever, and a shark jumping out of the water at them. Humongous sharks. There's no way they could have lived in this lake and people not have known about it. Jumping over, grabbing people right off the jet skis, and they're dead. You know? And they are, this is a big fault, CGI sharks. Quite a bit. There's a couple of scenes that may be some practical ones. I don't see how they could have filmed those moments without practical ones, but there are some scenes with like baby sharks or the big sharks just swimming around, and it is the most obvious, cringy CGI shark I've ever seen in my life. There's multiples, just so you know, and they look bad. They just look bad. But with the big dumb movie premise of this film, I don't hate that. I don't care about that. That's usually my big issue with a lot of these shark films. If it's not something like Jaws or Deep Blue Sea, it's usually low budget, low effort CGI crap. This film is like that. But I didn't hate it, nor did I hate the soundtrack. It has some decent songs in here too. Nothing too memorable, but some stuff to really kind of complement the film. The score was fine for the movie too. Shark Night 3D is not a complete loss of your time. If you want something just decent with some fine acting for some really bad character writing, a big dumb movie, if you just want that involving some sharks, you can't go better than Shark Night 3D. It doesn't have the tension of something like a Jaws. Maybe a couple of moments of people trying to swim fast enough to get away from a shark, which I don't think that was very realistic, but who cares? You know, Shark Night 3D was a fun time to watch, and I had a good time. I'd be lying to you if I said otherwise. I recommend it if you'd like to check it out at some point, but this is not a hidden horrors video like I typically do for hidden gem movies that I love and recommend quite a bit. This was a surprise. This is one I'd heard about from people like Lost River Drive-In, and I've heard more about in recent years when people get closer to the summertime, they mention this movie. I'm kind of glad I watched it. If I'm being honest with you, I'm kind of glad I watched it. Pretty nice little summertime flick if you haven't seen it before. So anyway, Shark Night 3D, if I had to go ahead and rate it on a 5-star basis, I would probably give it a 3 out of 5 stars. Yeah, it's big and dumb, but it knows what it is. It knows exactly what it is, which makes me, in hindsight, whenever I get around to rewatching the Final Destination films, which I thought about doing this year, I don't know yet, I might do that for the summertime. It makes me want to really pay attention to Final Destination 4. Not so much 2, but number 4, just to see if I'm crazy, if that film is more self-aware like Shark Night is. I don't know. Shark Night 3D, whatever you want to call this movie, solid time. Definitely a recommend for me if you haven't seen it before. Don't so much go at IMDb and see like the 4.8 out of 10 star current rating and assume it's complete garbage. It's big and it's bad and dumb, but a lot of people don't know how to recognize when a movie recognizes that. This one does, and I think it works. So I wish there was more killing, which is kind of terrible to say, but I wish there was, at least on screen, not so much all of this off-screen stuff where people just vanish from the movie and they're like, oh, I'm sorry, they died. They say that in this film at one point to a guy who lost his girlfriend. Shark Night 3D. Let me know what you think about the film down in the comment section down below. I'd love to hear everything you have to say about this wild little surprise of a movie down in the comments. Let me know everything you think, whether you like the review or not. I'd love to hear what you would rate the film too. Anyway, what did you think? Put it all down there. God bless you guys. Catch you later. And what is your favorite shark movie of all time? I don't mind Deep Blue Sea, but I think Jaws is the obvious answer that everybody will probably go to. So I guess I'll change the question a little bit. Aside from Jaws and aside from Deep Blue Sea, what would be your favorite shark film that you'd recommend to me? I'd love to hear that too. Maybe I'll try to get around to reviewing it this summertime because, you know, I got a lot of stuff I can review in here that I'm working through with my movie backlog this year. But I'll take hints, I'll take recommendations, whatever you guys would like. I'll try to get around to it as ASAP, but a lot of these shark reviews, if you guys happen to recommend some, will probably be during the summertime. Just standalone, out there, rando reviews. I haven't seen Meg 2, so maybe I'll try to watch that at some point. I heard it was way worse than the first one with Jason Statham, but we'll see. Anyway, sorry for all the rambling. Thank you guys. God bless you all. Catch you later, and goodbye.